Thank you both so much for being here. I am really excited about this panel because it is on one of my favorite topics, which is art. And we're not just talking about art in terms of painting and drawing, we're talking about art across the spectrum. So whether that is film or copyright, or we're going to cover a lot of things today. So thank you both so much for being here. I have the pleasure of being joined by Elley, who is the CEO and co-founder of Useful Arts, a nonprofit advancing creative rights and supporting artists in the age of generative AI. She previously served as president of Pantone, where she transformed the company into a modern, digital-first creative authority. She has held senior leadership roles at Shutterstock and Adobe, driving global strategy, product innovation, acquisitions, and AI-powered content platforms. But that's not all. Honestly, this is the hardest part of this job, is the list of amazing accomplishments of our panelists, because they are truly amazing individuals. She also worked at Accenture, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and this has given you a really rare perspective across creativity, finance, and business. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
Indrani. Indrani is maybe one of the coolest people I have met, and she also looks like a warrior. Indrani is an award-winning multidisciplinary artist, director, entrepreneur, and systems regenerator. Backed by 2 decades of work advancing economic opportunity, national resilience, and cultural and environmental preservation, she founded Open Origin, a green energy generation and distribution company, and Shakti Regeneration Institute, which elevates ancestral wisdom and innovation for global good. She had one of the most incredible mentors, which was David Bowie. She has led high-profile collaborations with Beyonce, Jay-Z, Lady Gaga, Keanu Reeves, and Kim Kardashian, and shaped major campaigns for Pepsi, Nike, LVMH, and the American Cancer Society. So, without further ado, we'll dive right in. Something that has really stood out to me about AI in the creative field is the way it's marketed as limitless. You know, we see a lot of ads and demos saying the only limit is your imagination. And that's not actually true. So, Elley, I wanted to start with you. What are the limitations that we need to remember when we're talking about AI in the creative field?
Well, I think I want to start off with noting the difference between the limit of creativity and the value of creativity. And of course, being able to use AI to transform the thoughts in your head into something tangible and output that looks great is so powerful, right? I mean, there's a Buddhist saying that's saying, what you think, you create. I mean, that's empowering, that's powerful. But at the same time, when you start to think about, unlimited creativity, meaning unlimited outputs, and yet you run up against the same limitations of the real life, of finance, of time, of natural resources, then you start to think about, well, how are these being played out? Are you taking your energy sources to put into unlimited content creation, and yet you're coming up against the same demand of people's attention and budget? So then if you're having unlimited supply and the same demand, you're going to see this devaluation of the supply, devaluation of the content, and at that point you have to really think about, well, what does it all go to, right? How do we differentiate and actually retain the value of content?
Indrani, what about you? What do you think we need to be aware of right now?
Well, I do believe that creativity is limitless, especially the creativity of nature. Human creativity has its challenges sometimes, but there's so much that we're able to do. But the energy source that fuels our digital world is not limitless, and nature is not limitless either. So as we are destroying our planet for the resources that are needed, we have to be cognizant that although AI can be incredibly useful for solving the grand challenges, if we destroy our planet in the process of powering it, we're really not benefiting anyone. So energy, there are limitless energy sources, and I believe that using energy responsibly for AI and for other all kinds of infrastructure and technology and digital abundance can be supported.
And that brings us to your company, Open Origin. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about this company that you've created, and then also maybe share a few examples of what does it look like practically for AI to be powered completely by green energy?
Well, the demand for energy is enormous. As we all know, so many of our wars have been fought over energy. And today, AI stands to quadruple the energy needs of our planet. And when we look at the global south and communities, like I've been working with indigenous communities in Brazil and with our nonprofit in India, the digital divide is enormous. So getting AI to everyone, to have a true democracy of creativity and information would be really ideal. And yet, if we don't solve the challenge of energy, we will find our entire societies disrupted. Already our grid is ancient and suffering, and we're experiencing the first of what will be many breakdowns of our energy cycles. So Open Origin provides a completely new model. It's grid-free, so we're off the grid. It's all solar-powered, and following nature. We follow the sun. So in the daytime, we generate energy. In the nighttime, we use stores of green ammonia that we produce from the solar power. And so we don't need massive batteries, although we have backup, but we can power our data centers for months without sun if needed. And then with the green ammonia, that can also be used to decarbonize shipping and industry, steel, cement, all kinds of infrastructure elements.
Limitless applications.
Limitless applications. So we can use AI as much as we want, and we actually can solve so many challenges if we look at the full picture, if we look at the costs of the work that we're doing in AI, and we plan for those.
Thank you so much for sharing. Elley, I wanted to hear from you. Where do you think we're currently going? If we were to project our path with creative AI forward, where does that end us?
Well, if you think about how money is being spent currently, right? I mean, we know that all these tech companies are pouring in hundreds of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure investments. And this is stuff that can depreciate over just course of 5 years or even less. And of course, then they're going to try to figure out how you can integrate or how to integrate AI into everything you do. And particularly, I really focus on I focus on Meta because it is such a company that's built on the attention economy. And so when you think about the application of what Meta or AI is going to do, you're going to see AI in everything, in creating your content, to distributing your content, to optimizing your content. So then, what does AI really promise? It promises a lot of it really fast and very much optimized, right? So over time, you can see everything being automated. So everything you do, everything you create is going to be done with AI, by AI. But then what you do is you run the risk of everything becoming the same when you're looking at the same data, same type of models. So then what happens is now creators will have to figure out a way to inject the humanness into this process, into this fully automated process, to find ways to differentiate content so it actually can stand out amongst the sea of AI-generated content.
Indrani, what about you? Where do you think we're headed if nothing changes right now?
Well, rather than focusing on doom and gloom projections, which we have many of, I think that we are at the tipping point of humanity's ability to live within our boundaries, our planetary boundaries. And I think it's a very exciting time because we do have an abundance of technologies, we do have answers, and the cost factor has become so low that, in fact, with Open Origin's green energy solutions for AI, it is less expensive and faster to deploy than any other kind of data center. So if you're going to do a new development, green energy and being off-grid and using no local water sources has become the cheapest and most effective options. So I'm very optimistic. I believe that that the market forces will choose the best path, which will be the best path for humanity and will allow us to really thrive and multiply. Our systems are modular and scalable, and they take less than 2 years to deploy. So there really is no reason why we need to keep going back to much more dangerous sources of fuel.
Thank you. You both have been on the front lines of ownership and copyright battles. I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about that, and given our trajectory right now, what do you anticipate the biggest challenges for creators to be as we see more AI integrating into these creative spaces? Ellie, can we start with you?
Yeah, so, I would say, if you think about the winners and losers, ultimately, the platforms, the foundational model providers, they're always going to win. I mean, it's like basically you're saying that you're getting into a cloud business when everyone's going on the internet. You'll be fine. As you move down the stack, you're going to start to see winners and losers differently, right? If you're looking at B2B businesses, those B2B businesses better know the workflow extremely well, like the back of their hands, because ultimately AI is going to be the same across board. So just slapping on AI is not going to help you. You need to know how you can work with human to inject the right input to differentiate the output. Same thing with B2C. You got to know your audience. There's no just, hey, slap on AI, suddenly everyone's going to come to you. But then ultimately, there's one group that actually is going to, they're the losers, and that's of no fault of their own. And these are the creators who are the ones with the data that they created, the artwork that provided to be the data that the models are trained on, and yet they are the ones being squeezed out of the value chain. And they are not the ones being compensated fairly or even recognized, as all of us use our AI models to kind of write or build or draw, and they're the ones who are being able to, they're not able to monetize or even have a living.
If you could wave a magic wand, is there any legislation or guardrail that you would put in place to protect people like that who are getting squeezed out by this growing system?
Well, I think first I would love for AI companies to truly disclose if their data sets are ethically sourced. Not just where it's from, but even compensation, the amount of compensation. I know there's a lot of debate several months earlier about how AI companies, if they were to compensate every provider data, they would go bankrupt. I mean, come on, we're promising hundreds of billions of dollars in depreciating assets over 5 years. Intangibles, you can depreciate that over 15 years. I don't understand. This doesn't add up. I mean, there must be a way to find ways to invest and provide the dollars to those who are creating the data. So with that said, I do think that there should be disclosure in terms of how the data is being sourced and how are they compensating the creatives. And secondly, I do think that the users have to take accountability as well. If you're using AI, I think it's a good way to disclose what AI is used for and not really using that as a way to say, hey, I did a great job, and really think that you're the, when AI can separate craft and creativity.
I feel like that might be a hard sell.
I mean, I think this is where humans need to differentiate themselves, right? Because this is a technology that can separate craft from creativity. And if you are using AI to help with the craft side, but you are so creative, talk about that. It's okay. We all use AI for many things. Over 50% of creatives use AI today.
Right, it's a complete culture shift of opening that up, and rather than saying, wow, look at how amazing I am, what I did, look at this tool that I found, and it has this and this and this capability. Let's see how we can implement that. Indrani, I do want to get to you. What do you think are the biggest challenges that are going to face people in terms of ownership and copyright? And for the communities that you're representing and working with, how do we make sure that they don't end up in that category of people being taken advantage of?
Well, it's happened long before AI came along. Copyright has been really diminished. As an artist, my work's been copied all over the place, and I've spent years chasing with lawsuits various partners, and realized that is not a creative way to live. So I do believe that the ethical issues are far greater than that, and I think that the workforce, I mean, most kinds of jobs are going to be facing tremendous changes with AI, and there will be a loss of livelihoods for a very large proportion of the population. At the same time, AI gives us tremendous new opportunities, and I do believe that humanity will rise to the challenge and find incredible new ways to live and thrive, and perhaps creativity can be unlocked in everyone. You know, in the indigenous communities, everyone's an artist, and in our world, we segregate all of our skill sets. So using technology to be able to liberate other parts of our psyche is also very exciting. So it doesn't solve the copyright challenge, but it does mean that we all have the capacity to create, and I believe that artists are going to be integral to this new evolution of humanity, and building businesses and developing technology and using their creativity in many new ways using these tools.
I am so sad that we are out of time, because I could keep talking to you guys about this for probably hours. But sadly, that is all the time we have. Thank you both so much for joining us here today. And I encourage everyone to grab them after and hear a little bit more about their stories. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.